afternoon, evening, wherever you may be joining us from. Uh, Welcome then to our first episode in our CAD modernization series. Over the next few weeks, we're going to show you how you can really get the most out of Creo Parametric and work faster, work smarter, and hopefully boil down to create designs that leave your competition in the so-called dust behind you. So today we're going to have a look at some modules that you may either already have access to, given your licensing situation, or you could have access to if you're looking to upgrade the way in which you work with Creo Parametric. So just to do a little bit of housekeeping and stuff beforehand, we can have a look at the series that is ahead of us. So it's all about Creo Parametric, and we have 4 episodes in this CAD modernization series. Today is all about unlocking what's in Creo. We're then going to have a dedicated session on advanced assembly and how we can leverage those tools like sort of top-down design methodologies and those sorts of things. A colleague of mine is then going to take us through some simulation-led design and leveraging the simulation capabilities within Creo Parametric on the 4th of June. And then on the 18th, we're going to have a look at the next installment of Creo Parametric in Creo 12, and we'll show you some of the top enhancements that are within that new product. So a little bit of an agenda for today then. I'm going to do a bit of an overview of myself and PDS Vision as a whole, as we've got a range of people on the call. We're going to talk about why it's important to modernize CAD and stay up to date with the latest versions of the software. We're going to have a look at the overall landscape of Creo Parametric, what's available, what's there. We're then going to have another sort of a deeper dive focus on some specifics that we think are really important, really valuable tools within the whole toolkit. We don't have time to run through everything, but we're going to pick out some key details that we think are going to resonate with you all. I'll then finish up again just to remind you of what's coming up in the series later on. And then we've got some specific channel offers, so some promotions that we're running that are local to the channel for us at PDS Vision to hopefully take advantage of some of the things we've talked about today. And of course, we'll run through some Q&A at the end if there are any questions. So a little bit about myself. My name is Rory Island-Bocott. I'm a customer success manager here at PDS Vision, and it's my task really to make sure that our customers are well educated, informed on the products that we offer and sell, and I work very closely with our sales team and our customers in conjunction, and making sure you're getting the most from the products and services that you purchase from us. So I've got over a decade of experience with the PTC portfolio, and pretty much that entire decade has been spent at PDS Vision. But I come from a technical background, so I've got familiar usage with our CAD platform, our IoT, PLM suite as well. So I've got a fairly broad knowledge across the PTC portfolio. As for PDS Vision then, for those that you don't know, we are a global business. We span 16 different locations across the globe. We have over 500 employees, 300 of which, or over 300 of which are technically focused. So like myself, my colleagues here in the UK and across the globe, we have technical expertise throughout the business. So our expertise as a business unit then encompasses that entire PTC portfolio, along with the ANSYS technology, okay, and our own range of My PDS apps, which are purposefully designed to work alongside that PTC portfolio suite and assist and further expand the capabilities that are offered in those products. So they span Creo, ThingWorx, and PLM as well, Windchill. So why should we modernize our CAD platform and our design methods? I suppose the main reason then is the way we design our products has changed quite dramatically over the last few years, really. Today's products are more intelligent. They're more complex. You know, we're often seeing more tighter integration between hardware and software. We have environmental factors that are becoming more apparent and influence our designs more than ever. Also, our customers are changing. You know, their expectations are always getting higher, timelines are tighter, and innovation, or the pressure to innovate, is constant, right? We need to be at the forefront of whatever we're doing to make sure that we stay at the top of our game. So meeting and exceeding these modern demands requires modern tools and solutions. You wouldn't try and solve a modern problem with an old tool. It doesn't make sense. So that's what this first episode is really all about, is letting you know what tools are in Creo, what's available, and how you can leverage those moving forwards. So I thought it might be worthwhile just to take a moment and look back at the Creo timeline. Each of these releases of Creo brought with them major improvements to the platform. And in fact, from Creo 10 to Creo 12, which is just around the corner, there will have actually just been shy of 600 unique enhancements within the product. However, we still see a lot of our customers are still using out-of-date CAD. And I know for a fact we still have customers using Creo 4, which is actually nearly a decade old, which is quite surprising. I started on Creo 2, and I can't believe that Creo 4 is now nearly 10 years old. And in fact, Creo 8 literally went off support last month. So if you're on Creo 8 or earlier, you're not only missing out on some of the new features, but you're also potentially at risk, because when things go off support, you don't get any more bug fixes, security patches, and PTC are within their right to refuse sort of any support requests. So if you run into a problem, we'll always do our best to try and support you with that, but we lack our leverage with PTC if we find a technical problem with the product itself. So it might be worthwhile just asking yourselves where you currently sit on that timeline. Are you ahead of the curve? Are you up to date, or are you running behind slightly? So before we dive down into some of the topics, I just wanted to talk subscription. PTC moved to a subscription model, and there are additional benefits that PTC packaged in with this when they made that change from that perpetual landscape to the subscription landscape. And I don't think everyone's always aware of what offers you get with that. So the first of all is you get access to PTC's online learning portal with a subscription license, okay? And that enables your teams to get up to speed with the very latest technology, understand what's new and all of that good stuff. And understanding these complex tools to the best of your ability can help shorten your ramp up time within your staff. You can improve consistency across the business if everyone's working in the same way and in the same manner. And yeah, I think more importantly, if you're in charge of bringing this software into the business, it enables you to unlock the real value of the product. Your ROI increases massively if your staff know how to use the tool effectively. So staying on subscription also means that you're never going to be stuck on an outdated or unsupported software. You're always going to get the latest release of Creo. You're going to get regular security updates, performance enhancements, throughout your investments. With that support, you also get direct access to our support team. Okay, PDS Vision, we're proud of it. We're widely recognized for our support, and you can connect directly with people who understand your industry and can help you solve the problems as and when you face them. So updated software support from us as well is a big factor. There's also an application under the hood called Performance Advisor. Now, this is a web portal that can give you real-time visibility into how Creo is being used across your business. So you can see things like features that are maybe going unused. Maybe you've got sheet metal, but some people aren't using it. You can identify incompatible hardware, proactively resolve performance issues before they maybe disrupt your day-to-day work. So this isn't just an IT tool, although it can be used for that, but it's something that engineers and managers can use to maybe make more informed decisions when it comes to picking out hardware, if that's part of your remit, or staff training. And again, I said, if you've got different licenses and you can see that your staff aren't using those licenses, that might indicate that maybe they don't know how, they don't know it exists, and you can be proactive in responding to that and organize some training with us, or just making sure that people are aware and they start using it. And also license usage as well. So you want to make sure that you're not overspending or underspending. You can see what's being leveraged, what maybe you do need, what you don't need moving forward when renewal comes up, and you can negotiate and have that conversation with us. All licenses then come, or subscription licenses come with a home use license, and that offers us a little extra freedom. Okay, so that is a design essentials license. So it's sort of the core Creo functionality that is available to you to install on a machine from home. So if you've got a locked license, that will give you one home use license, or if you purchase a floating license, you have two home use licenses that you can install offline from the work network on your own systems. And again, you can reach out to our support team if you want to understand if you have these available and you want to get them set up, reach out to our support. And then finally, then we have our floating license. For our floating license users, we have borrowing licenses. So if you have floating licenses on the server and you're going away, you can borrow a license from that server for up to 180 days. Okay, and that means you can go away, work offline, away from the network, maybe at a beach bar, or probably more likely, doing some light work in your hotel room in Milton Keynes, which is more akin to what I'd be doing with it. But yeah, you can borrow licenses from your license server for up to 180 days for the floating license users. Okay, so let's now dive a little bit deeper into Creo Parametric. What's there? What's available? It's a huge platform now. There's a hell of a lot under the hood, and a lot that you probably don't realize. So if you buy Creo today, then everything in that T1 group that you can see there comes as standard. So if you do any form of Creo you buy, you're going to get this functionality. So that's things like core solid modeling, parametric surfacing, sheet metal capabilities, assemblies and mechanisms, 2D drawings, I don't know, model-based definition. So you get all of that, as well as that extra stack of information that you see underneath. Simulation, piping and cabling, intelligent fasteners, human factors, as well as all the others there. So just within core Creo, anyone that buys Creo now gets access to all of that information. And there's too much even in that T1 package for me to cover in this 45-minute session, or however long we're going to run for. So and it would also be a bit of a waste of time to run through everything in detail. Not all of it is applicable to all of you on the call, so we're not going to do that. I think it's worth noting we do have a presentation that runs through every single extension that you can see on this list. So if that's something of interest to you, just put a note in the comments and we can make sure we get that sent out to you. So you can take a look at all of these individually. So we don't have time to run through them all, but what I'm going to do though is, in the past, we've sort of focused on that T1 package before in the past. So I thought for this presentation, I'm going to shift our focus a little bit further afield. We're going to focus on a few key modules in this presentation from those other groups, that T1, T3, that T2, T3, T4, T5 instances. So these are all bundles that you can purchase. So you could have a T2 license and you get all the information that you can see in here. But I thought I'd pick out a few that we think maybe resonate with us and maybe with our customers as well. So hopefully they should all resonate with you as well. So let's take a look at some of these features then. So we'll start then with a few extensions that I've picked out that can help maybe take up some of the burden of the design process within your engineering department. So we have chosen three. We're going to have a look at the sort of overviews of all of these. So we're going to take a look at the behavioral modeling extension, which sort of builds in an intelligence within your models that you may not be aware of that you could do at the moment. We're going to have a look at easy tolerance analysis, so predicting fit issues on the production line. And then we're going to take a look at GD&T Advisor, which is a tool for assisting and guiding your users through applying these geometric dimensions and tolerances to your models and adhering to particular standards. We're then going to have a look at another few extensions a little bit later. But let's take a look at these ones that are designed for taking some of the burden off of your engineering staff. So behavioral modeling is all about letting Creo handle sort of that iterative process for you, enabling you to generate optimal designs more automatically based upon engineering criteria. So an example might be if you're trying to design a crankshaft and you need to make sure it remains stable during its rotation. You could do this manually, tweaking and trimming bits of material off, having cutouts to make sure that sort of center of gravity stays in the right location. Or we could hand it over to behavioral modeling, or BMX for short, and it can analyze that information. You could set the requirement of the center of gravity or whatever factor it is, give it some parameters to play around with, and then it will make the assumptions and adjustments for you based upon the information you prepare. So, a lot of that pain that we see with our customers is that these things are time consuming. It can be very iterative and prone to errors if your design changes. That's one of the benefits of having it within BMX. So let's have a quick overview of BMX then. So at its core, let me just hit play before I start. So yeah, BMX helps you design with intent and hit those specific targets faster. So whether it is you're aiming for a specific weight limit, a performance spec, or a cost constraint, BMX helps you find that best possible version of your design without that guesswork and rework. So instead of endlessly tweaking models to see what works, you can set a goal like that center of gravity, a particular volume maybe for a container, or a stress, or a displacement, and you let the system do the heavy lifting. It figures out the values for dimensions and parameters to find the right shape that hits that target goal. So that means fewer design loops, fewer surprises in testing, and more time actually spent on engineering work. Not just chasing geometry. So it's built around 3 different types of study that we can perform. We have sensitivity studies, and that they show you what actually matters when you're altering and making changes to your design. Some dimensions might affect an end goal more than others. So that's what a sensitivity study is all about, understanding that. We have feasibility studies, which help you check if your target can actually be reached in the first place. And then we have those optimization stages where we're actually taking a design goal and optimizing our model to meet that goal. So the real win here for the business is you can really cut down the time to market by removing that manual iteration process. You can reduce costs by avoiding that over designing or over engineering of your products and trimming excess material. We can boost product quality, making things better, more refined, and being able to make these decisions earlier in that design process. And you're ultimately freeing up engineers, not having to constantly do this sort of admin, busy work. They can actually focus on innovation and moving on to the next products. And I think one of the biggest benefits here is all of that information, that logic that you build into the model is in the model itself. So if a design changes, your simulation, your optimizations update as well, and everything adapts. So all of that information is contained within the design itself. If we have a look at then the next extension I picked out, which is GD&T Advisor. So applying GD&T can be quite a complex and error-prone process, especially when you're trying to maybe ensure that you're working within compliance and the different standards, ASME and ISO standards. So GD&T Advisor simplifies that process by sort of offering real-time and context-sensitive guidance within Creo for applying these sorts of annotations. So this tool not only streamlines the annotation process, but it also ensures that your models are ready for further downstream applications, maybe like tolerance analysis, which we're going to have a look at, or inspection down on the shop floor, or manufacturing and production. So a lot of the pain that we see are misapplied or incorrect tolerances leading to these manufacturing issues. And GD&T ensures that annotations comply with these standards and can help reduce errors downstream. So I think for most people then, GD&T is something they know they probably should be doing or doing better, but often avoid it because it can be quite confusing, or they're just simply not confident with it. And I think that's pretty fair. I know GD&T is a critical process, but it's definitely not easy. It's not something I'm particularly confident with. And when we build CAD models, we're always working with perfect geometry, right? But in the real world, manufacturing isn't perfect. It never will be. And GD&T is the language that we can use to say, this feature needs to be this accurate, or we can accept this much variation in this feature. And if you don't get that right, your design either might not work, or it might have to be altered to make sure it does work, and that can cause scrap. It can cause delays in the production cycle, and cause ultimately rework and downtime on the line maybe. So the problem is that a lot of engineers simply aren't either trained in GD&T or aren't trained to the level that they need to be. The rules are also quite complex. The standards are always going to evolve over time, and a lot of the tools for applying this information aren't always the easiest to understand. So what happens is you end up with people that either guess when it comes to making these assumptions, or they copy annotations from other models, or they skip it entirely and will leave it to someone else downstream to fix. And that can create a huge pile of wasted time, longer review processes. You have these errors creeping into your models, and loads of the cost ends up gets tied up in fixing that problem later on down the line. So that's where GD&T Advisor comes in. It takes away a lot of the heavy lifting of GD&T by guiding you through the process, so you're not second guessing yourself or spending hours looking at the standards to make sure you're within the right ballpark. So you get a wizard-like set of tools to help you apply these GD&T annotations to the right services, and it can flag any problems as you go. So it won't let you down if you find something invalid. It can filter out bad options as you're working through your models, and you can easily understand where you are, where's your model at, what's constrained, what's fully defined, what isn't on the design itself. It can also provide you with tips and warnings and explanations within the user interface itself, so it can sort of educate you as you're going through and applying this GD&T. So if you find that in your team, you're struggling with GD&T, or you're debating about how to apply it, or you're spending maybe too much time fixing issues from bad tolerancing issues, this could be a tool that can really help you and your team work smarter, faster, and get your designs production ready before they go out to be produced. So tolerance stack-ups then are a pretty critical process for ensuring that your assemblies function as intended. But traditional methods can often involve sort of manual work, manual calculations, or external tools, again, which can be quite time consuming and prone to error. You're introducing an error whenever a human aspect comes into things. You're always going to introduce potential errors. So by embedding this tolerancing analysis functionality directly within Creo, it can help you make more informed decisions early in the design process and reduce the risk of costly revisions later on. So if we have a look at an example again. So when we're building parts in CAD, again, we're working with perfection, right? Everything lines up, all of our surfaces are nice and clean, there's no variation in what we're designing. But again, in that real world, the manufacturing world, it's not perfect. That's completely normal. So every part you make will vary a little from the model. And when all of those small little variations start stacking up across an assembly, they can cause a lot bigger issues. You can have components that don't fit anymore and that sort of stuff. So the problem is that most teams that we see, they define tolerances but don't actually analyze them. They work on a particular part, tolerance the part, but don't take a look at the bigger picture. And that becomes more of a box ticking exercise. So when parts don't fit right, or production fails a test, let's say, we end up stuck in that costly rework loop of trial and error and getting the things to work. Or what can end up happening is you just end up tightening sort of tolerances across the board to make sure you're safe, which drives up your manufacturing costs. So that's where easy tolerance analysis is designed to step in. Okay, it's a tool that lets engineers perform 1D tolerance stackups and gap analysis inside the Creo environment. So you don't have external spreadsheets, there's no export, and there's no sort of guesswork in between. It's powered by a company called Symmetrics, and they also offer a three-dimensional tolerance stackup as well for Creo, but that's not within the bundled packages that we're having a look at today. So that's a topic for another day maybe. So you can define your stackups right on the model and instantly see which tolerances are contributing the most to that variation within your design. It automatically builds the stackup table and shows your quality predictions like CPK, Sigma, DPMO, and can highlight exactly where you should be focusing your attention. Also, the results can update dynamically as you go in and tweak these values in real time. So ultimately, that means no more over tolerancing, no more trial and error within trying to get these things to work. And you can actually focus and fix the tolerances that actually matter, leaving the rest loose. There's no point playing around with tolerances that actually ultimately have no real overall effect on the design. You can focus on the ones that really are actually going to have an end game change. So if your team is still maybe relying on spreadsheets to manage this sort of variation, or you're struggling maybe with scrap and late stage design tweaks, maybe easy tolerance analysis could be a simple upgrade that helps you overcome those issues within your design process. So I have a sip of water there. But let's move on. Let's have a look at then a set of extensions that extend your team's capability. Okay. So the extensions I can take a look at then are interactive surface design for surface generation. We're going to have a look at generative design, which is all about sort of AI helping you, model and design your components right the first time. And then we're going to take a look at some of the additive manufacturing capabilities within Creo Parametric as well. So interactive surface design then, or ISDX, we sometimes call it, or actually the feature in Creo is called style, so it's a little bit confusing, but ISDX, interactive surface design. So this enables your designers to build more complex, high quality surfaces that are both functional as well as sort of visually compelling. And by integrating both parametric and freeform modeling, ISDX users are able to sort of build more robust and ultimately sort of more beautiful surfaces, and is a must-have when you're generating these aesthetically pleasing lines and stars within your designs. So standard tools can be a little bit slower to work with and limit the capabilities that you can achieve when it comes to sort of that visual identification of your products, and this is where style or ISDX really comes into play. So I think probably you all agree that in today's market, it's not always enough for your products to simply work. Your products also have to look great, and that doesn't really matter where you sit anymore. It's whether you're in a consumer industry, automotive, or you're designing industrial equipment. Styling has a massive impact on user perception, the perception of your product. Functionality of a product is really important, but if you can also convince simply through the visuals of your product that it does what it should, that is a massive benefit that you can have over your competition. So parametric surfacing is really powerful, but it's not necessarily always built for speed or creativity. You can end up constantly managing different constraints and dimensions, and the more complex the shape, the harder that gets. And that makes it really tough to meet styling demands if you're trying to achieve these things, especially if the design starts in maybe a third-party tool and you have that disconnect of where you're importing geometry from another system. So that's where ISTX really comes into its own. It gives engineers that direct control over those freeform surfaces, but directly within Creo Parametric. So you get the best of both worlds, right? You get that creative freedom of these sort of flowing shapes and advanced curves, but you also have that parametric control when and where you need it. We can link to parametric geometry, and we can build and tweak dimensions within ISDX as well when we need to. So the toolset is made for surfacing, and you've got G0 through to G3 continuity. So whether you're aligning edges or refining reflections on your model, ISDX has you covered in that state. We have analytical tools to understand curvature and reflection analysis as well. So these changes are all live. We don't have to constantly regenerate our work. There's no guesswork. We have this built-in 4-view display, reflection analysis tools, visual tools to help you make sure you're getting that surface quality just right. ISDX also makes it easy to work from reference data, such as things like 2D images, which you can see on screen, as well as align to things like point cloud or facet models, which is really ideal, handy for when you're looking at sort of reverse engineering or early concepts outside Creo. Now, reverse engineering is a completely separate topic, but ISTX is a tool that does work really well with the reverse engineering tools that we have within Creo. So from a business angle, this unlocks a lot of value, right? You can reduce the time to market. ISTX is a much faster way of building surface geometry within Creo. You can create these complex shapes without bouncing between different tools or recreating designs. And we've seen between 50 and 70% time savings on challenging surfaces when leveraging things like ISDX. We can cut development costs, again, fewer design loops, fewer bottlenecks, and give that styling edge to a product. As I said, that perceived value that you can build into a product is massive. You see a lot of marketing now is all about perceived value, not necessarily direct value that your products offer, which is important, but being able to convince your market that your product is valuable. So yeah, ICX is all about designing beautiful and high quality surfaces fast in a single environment. Generative design then. So this introduces sort of an entirely new approach to product development. Okay, so generative can automatically generate these optimized manufacturable geometry based off a set of design criteria. And allows engineers to explore even more possibilities faster than they could with maybe more traditional modeling techniques. That not only reduces design time, but often reveals more innovative solutions that may not have been discovered through manual iteration. So it's really valuable when it comes to applications where we're trying to make our products lighter, maybe make things more material efficient. Sustainability are key drivers these days, and maybe reducing the weight for shipping or reducing the amount of material being used in a product is helpful to reach these sort of net zero goals that are being introduced across the industry. I think it's pretty worth mentioning as well, when we're on the topic of sustainability, slight sidetrack here, PDS Vision, as you may know, also support the ANSYS product line, and that includes a product called Grantor MI, which allows you to make more informed material choices, but providing real-world environmental data like embodied carbon and recyclability right within maybe your PLM tool like Windchill for users to see. Okay, so if you're deliberating on what material it is you want to use for this product, a tool like Grantor MI, which is a massive library of information, can help you choose the right product for the right tool and right application. Bit of a side note, but I think it's worth mentioning. So I think we probably all agree that designing and product design isn't getting easier. There are always more competitors, customer expectations are rising, we have tighter timelines, and we still want to hit those performance goals, the cost and quality targets that we're all given. So that's really where generative design comes in. Instead of sculpting a part manually, hoping it works, you can define that intent up front. Your loads, what space we're working in, what manufacturing method we're going to use, and maybe what material. And we allow the system to generate these valid and optimized solutions for us. So it's a faster and smarter way to solve those tough design problems, especially earlier on, right, in that design process where where we had the biggest gains are possible because we're not restricted. Early stage design changes are the best ones. So traditional workflows, again, are this sort of iterative process. You design, you then analyze, tweak, redesign, reanalyze, those sorts of things. And you run the risk of maybe delays and overspending when it comes to those sort of design cycles and that iterative stage. So generative design is all about flipping that. Okay, it helps you get it right early or first time by exploring multiple ideas all at once based off different performance targets or constraints or different materials. And the system gives you a range of options that you can choose from and lets you choose what works best for you and your priorities. So I think it's probably worth mentioning there's both a sort of a local version that runs locally on your machine that optimizes for a given solution. And then there's a cloud offering as well that enables you to optimize for these multiple different solutions. So you can have different materials, different load constraints, and get an understanding of multiple different outcomes from this design. So it's something that can be set up really quickly. It doesn't require that babysitting. And then once your studies are complete, let's take a cloud example here where you've got those multiple studies, you can review and filter those. So you could have a look by weight, stress, safety factor, or maybe cost. And then what you can do is then carry that design, your chosen design, forwards and bring that back into your Creo environment as your chosen design. So this shortens design cycles. You can get to market quicker. You can reduce cost by using less material or simplify the manufacturing process, and hopefully avoid those later stage design surprises. So GDX then it lets your engineers create parts that perform better, hopefully cost less, and focus on innovation really, rather than doing these sort of admin iterative processes. They can design for an optimal solution straight out the bag. Additive manufacturing then. So this really bridges the gap between design and production, okay, and embedding the 3D printing workflows directly within the Creo environment. So engineers are able then to design and optimize complex lattice structures that we have within the system. We can therefore reduce material usage, ensure parts are structurally sound with our inbuilt simulation capabilities. And we can then have also these built-in printing capabilities. So Creo Parametric has the ability to talk directly to certain supported 3D printers. And so it consolidates all of this information all within the Creo environment. So I think we probably all know, some of the potential benefits of 3D printing. We have maybe fewer assembly components. We can create lighter components. Maybe we have faster prototyping cycles as well. But we often see that a lot of companies and teams are still jumping maybe between separate tools for, CAD simulation, lattice generation maybe, and then maybe printer setup is where you got your slicers for turning this into a language that 3D printers can understand. So Creo has the ability to bring all of that into one location. Okay, so we've got our design work, our simulation, lattice creation, validation, and print prep. It can all happen within Creo Parametric. And therefore, what you model then is exactly what you print. It cuts out the fuzz that sits in between the conversion of all of those. And where Creo can really shine is with its sort of lattice generation. So you can reinforce your parts to improve maybe strength to weight ratios. You can add flexibility to your design, maybe reduce the amount of material that's being used. And Creo gives you full control over these beam-based lattices. Everything's parametrically driven. You've got values that you can alter via parameters, those sorts of things. We also have formula-driven lattices. We have things like stochastic lattices or custom cells. So if you want to design your own lattice structure, we have the capabilities to support those as well moving forwards. So you can really tailor that to whether you're focusing on lightening your structure or improving its structural rigidity. All of that information is built within Creo, and you can leverage that. And it doesn't have to be trial and error either. It can be simulation driven. So you can simulate your models and adjust density of your lattice structure based upon the stress that you get from your simulation results. So you can automatically kind of reinforce those critical areas and take out some of the guesswork in your engineering decisions. So when your design is then ready, you've finished your design work and you want to go to print, Creo includes this full print tray management for position, nesting components within the print tray, assigning materials, different colors, and we can estimate things like build time and material usage. Okay, again, all inside the one tool. So Creo also supports supported 3D printers, so things like some Stratasys printers and 3D systems printers are supported out the box, so you can communicate and directly print to those printers. If not, we can export to the standardized formats, which I can't remember off the top of my head, 3MXF, I think, or 3 3XF, something along those lines, or STL files. So, yeah, you're not bogged down to speaking just to those printers. We can support multiple different printers across the world. So yeah, hopefully that adds up to sort of faster workflows, fewer headaches, and speed up the process there, the prototyping process, or building jigs, or printing for production parts as well potentially. So that kind of summarizes some of the topics I wanted to pull out and highlight to you. I know there are a lot more in there, and if there are any that you do want to see, again, you can always pop a message in the chat function or whatever, and we can send you that full document that runs through each of these extensions. But you're also reach out to us and we can communicate, and we can set up demonstrations for you on more specific functionality if there's something in there that you think is appropriate for you. But I think it'd be worthwhile just letting you know about an offer that we have running at the moment. So this is a channel offer. So this is for PTC's channel. You can't get this from PTC direct. It's only from people like PDS Vision. So and the offer is for on users that are looking to upgrade older versions or older Creo packages to get an increase in functionality. Okay. So this is a running for this quarter. So it's limited to us as a channel, and it's discount on an upgrade. Basically, I can't provide the details on the specifics of the discount, but that's something we can communicate to you if you reach out to us. But what that might mean is if you're maybe running on an older license type, so maybe a Creo Design Essentials, an Engineer One, Creo Parametric license, and you're looking to upgrade, we have these specific channel-only bundles. So when we were talking about that big slide and I had the T1, T2, T3, these are specific channel bundles that where we sort of cherry-picked probably the most valuable extensions out of those bundles and created them into our own channel specific bundles, which are called De Uno and Stella. So if you're looking to upgrade at the moment from an old license to a newer license, we have these specific channel bundles that may be of better value for you moving forwards. So I wanted to make you aware of that. If this is something that's interested you, please again do reach out to us. So just to follow on, just to remind you all of what's coming up next, 21st of May, we're going to take a look at advanced assembly, top-down design methodology, and the tools that are available within that extension. We're going to have a simulation topic where we're going to talk about bringing simulation earlier on in the design cycle, and that's going to be run by one of my colleagues here in the UK. And then finally, I'll be back on the 18th of June for what's new in Creo 12. So please make sure you head over to our website and get subscribed to these where you on the ones you want to join us on. So before we end then, let me see if we have any questions. A couple of people that want the breakdown slide deck, so I'm sure we can get those sent out. That's not a problem. Do I have to buy a license bundle, or are these modeled? Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. If I just jump back to that slide then, just so you're all aware. Oh, it's a bit further back than I thought. Bear with me. There we go. So the question was, do you have to buy a bundle, T1, T2? No, you don't. These bundles are there, but all of these extensions are available as individual line items as well. So often it can be maybe a base tier Creo, and maybe you want, I don't know, fatigue advisor. It's probably more cost effective just to buy a base Creo and then a single extension. But as you're looking to build maybe more extensions, this is where these bundles really become effective. Okay, but no, all of these line items are available as individual extensions that you can purchase one-off. Can behavioral modeling be used with simulation? Yes, so you can tie the behavioral modeling, which is the application where we talk about providing your design with some parameters and having the Creo optimized for that solution. That can be tailored with simulation, yes. So either you're using Creo Simulate Live, our ANSYS powered product, you can leverage maybe simulation probes, stresses, deformations, and have that drive maybe a dimension. So if you're designing a clip, maybe, and you want it to deform by a certain amount with a certain force, you could alter the thickness of that clip to achieve the required deformation that you're looking for. So yeah, you can combine BMX with simulation capabilities. As an extension, can the license be floating? Yes, you can have floating licenses as well as lock licenses for extensions. That may differ on certain extensions, but as a general rule of thumb, yes, you can have floating licenses for extensions as well. Okay, I haven't seen any more questions come in, but I will, as always, I will hang around for a little while and keep an eye on these. But if not, thank you all very much for joining. Hopefully see you again on the next webinar.